Today on the Nerdy Gritty, we have a mischievous conversation about Loki.
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. Well, that makes a man instead. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I am oh no, I'm being taken. I did something wrong. The TV has got me. That's Gator Fox.
Yeah, that's Gator Fox. I'm Alligator Fox. That's the Alligator Fox noise.
The alligator.
Just kind of a annoyed grunt.
Everybody loves alligator. Loki.
Loki Gator.
Yeah,
is the greatest.
Man.
But we're gonna get into it. I have questions.
We'll get into
it. We're obviously
things.
talking about Loki today, but first of all, I have to welcome you all to the Space Jam 2: A New Legacy.
Oh no.
Oh
no.
The Space Jam. It's a Space Jam watch. Space Jam 2 came out this weekend, or came out today. Actually,
Did it really? Oh, I'm
recording.
gonna go look up the Metascore because I'm curious.
I think I saw a 39, which may be better than the original. I don't know if there's a single movie that is more beloved based solely on nostalgia than Space Jam.
There's a 36 Metascore,
36 meta,
and a 2.8 user rating.
Wow. Wow. It is rare you get a user rating lower than the critic rating.
Right.
That's rare. Wow. Okay.
Well, the original Space Jam has a 59 Metascore.
Oh, okay.
And a 6.8 user rating.
Interesting. I wonder how, man, there's so many interesting things about reviewing and like film criticism. Like how does it factor into a lot of critics like this is a dumb basically remake of a movie that nobody cared and nobody need, so we're gonna give it a lower score? Like, I don't know. Anyway, I have a real big question.
Okay.
About Space Jam.
Okay.
The original. I haven't seen the new one, obviously.
Right.
You've seen the Space Jam with Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah, several times.
Yeah, wonderful dumb movie.
Yes.
It's got Dennis Nedry in there, Newman.
Bill Murray.
Lots of cartoon characters.
Larry Bird is in it for a while.
Is he actually in it, or is he one of the ones they steal the mojo?
No,
from?
He's in it.
Okay.
I mean, and the ones that they steal the mojo
he's
from
like
are
golfing
also
with
in
them
it
or something. Anyway, regardless, here's the question: why is it called Space Jam?
Because they're aliens from space and they're slam dunking.
But they don't go to space.
Isn't
it called
Monster Mountain in space?
I don't think so. They go to Cartoon World, right? He
Well,
gets sucked into
it's
Cartoon
all in
World.
the space of Cartoon World. Like this is another planet.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. That's question number 1. I've got 47 here. Why? Second one. Why?
2 through 48.
Third one. How dare you? No, Space Jam. Why? Okay, this is
and in the 90s, a slam dunk was also called a jam.
Oh, okay. So like NBA Jam. Oh, it's all falling into place for me.
You're not quite the 90s kid
No,
I was. We were different ages.
I was born in 1990, so I am a 90s kid. But really, most of my
I was in the prime of my youth.
Teenage years where I
like 7-8 years old.
I'm a millennial. So
yeah,
a true millennial age-wise. Anyway, also, this is slightly inspired by this week's episode of The Besties because
yes, I haven't listened to it yet.
Griffin McElroy brings up the fact that there have been many potential Space Jam sequels.
Right.
And I just want to read a list of those now.
Oh no! See, I don't know how. I just know that they've thought about it before. I don't know who or where or what
hold
or
on,
why.
I gotta actually find this. Here we go.
Let's be clear.
That's not it.
It was huge in the 90s.
Yeah, Space Jam was massive.
Yeah,
like
basketball was different at that time too, though. It was huge sport at the time.
Michael
also.
Jordan was the king of the world,
right,
and the king of basketball. But yeah, there were. Let me look at. Let me find this a good list here. Yes. Okay. Several potential sequels.
I'm excited. I am.
Spy Jam. Starring Jackie Chan.
Really?
There was a potential Spy Jam.
Okay, would have been the Looney Tunes as well?
I'm guessing that they're all going to basically
Looney Tunes
be
and
the
Jackie
same.
Chan?
It would be, one famous actor or whatever.
I'd watch that.
And a bunch of tunes.
Hey, Fox, I'd watch that.
Well, sure. Let me get you the next.
It would be
one.
bad and terrible.
Oh, sure,
but I would
sure,
watch
sure.
the crap out of it.
There was one with NASCAR racer Jeff Gordon in the
Nope.
works.
Why?
Do you want to know what that one is called?
Hang on. It was called Race Jam.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Ooh, not the best title.
The Race
This
Jam.
is the Race Jam. Welcome to the slam. Oh no, don't slam. There was apparently one with Tiger Woods planned or thought about with
Okay, that's called a...
it doesn't have a title here.
I could definitely... Okay, here's the problem with that. I mean, another superstar that changed a sport forever.
Sure, obviously Tiger Woods is the king of golf.
Yes, well, was. He's getting old now. But, and also he had some issues.
Yeah, unrelated to golf, sure.
Right, but... Then what did the golf do? Like, I mean,
it would be a very
once the Looney Tunes get there, because the whole basketball thing, it was crazy and wild, but they still played the sport of basketball. If they get crazy and wild but still play the sport of golf, that's not that exciting.
You just add cartoony things to it. You make it basically Mario Golf with ridiculous things
and power-ups
yeah,
and whatnot.
Everything can be ridiculous. But golf is a weird choice. I
guess Happy Gilmore did
I think that was mainly based on, well, Tiger Woods is big, so
yeah.
But here's what I think the best possible option, and I am so sad they didn't ever make it. Skate Jam with Tony Hawk.
Heck yes!
That would have been the coolest movie of all time. I would have watched the crap out of that too. Just doing ridiculous, basically like Tony Hawk, maybe Underground, but just Tony Hawk Pro Skater in actual movie form, where they're just doing ridiculous.
You get like Rodney Mullen in there,
yeah, you get
and
all
like
the people in
there.
Yeah,
all these other side skaters.
You get actual cartoons to watch Rodney Mullen doing what he does and be like,
and he is a cartoon.
How did you? I can't do this.
That's not physics.
This is cartoon physics, and I still can't do it. Oh man, it is shocking to me that there were not sequels that came out immediately after. Not even like direct-to-video sequels.
I think that Space Jam, and I think that Space Jam 2: New Legacy is really showing this. I think that it was just this kismet. When everything came
just
together.
Just a lightning in the bottle.
Yes, at that exact perfect specific moment.
Somebody said, yes, let's do this.
Right time, right place. Looney Tunes were big. Michael Jordan was big.
Right.
Like everything was just in that perfect spot to make this film.
And Warner Brothers greenlit it.
And then the moment it was just out of sync, because it got forgotten pretty quick too. Like nobody really talked about Space Jam. I mean, other than us 90s kids who were that age at the time. Sure. But yeah, it's just... Yeah.
Anyway, I might see the new one if I have free time and go. I'll just go see it in the theater.
I might watch it streaming.
Sure.
Might. I don't know, man.
Well, anyway, that's our Space Jam talk. It's very important.
Let's get into some news here because
for sure.
I got 3 news articles that I want to hit, and the first one's pretty quick. 3 video games went up for auction this past week.
Okay.
And there are some records. So I just want to see if you can kind of give a guess here. This is a sealed Xbox 360 copy of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Oh, I read about this. I forget how much it was for, though.
So this is, again, let's be clear. This is not ancient Atari or anything like that. This is 2 console generations ago, Xbox 360.
This is the original generation for it.
But sealed Skyrim.
Sure.
How much did it go for?
This one, I think it was something like $500?
Close. $600.
Okay, to be fair, too much money.
Way too much money.
It literally has come out on every generation.
You might be able to still just buy this online. Like, I would not be surprised if you could just go somewhere
maybe
and find it online.
Still, that is ridiculous.
All right, but before this, there was a copy of Super Mario 3 that had sold at auction for, I think it was like $600,000. And that was the record. This was like years ago this happened. So that record was broken last week.
Okay.
Unopened first printing Legend of Zelda video game, 1987.
Wow.
Unopened.
How
much did that go for?
Dear Lord, I'm gonna go $1 million plus. I'm gonna go 1.5.
Not quite.
No,
$870,000.
It doesn't anything above. I mean, obviously there's sentimental value, there's
right?
Collectors. For me though, anything above like $100 is like, What? Like 870,000 is equal to 1.5 million to me. They're all ridiculous numbers.
Days later, that record was broken again.
For the same game?
Nope.
Oh, for a game
$1.5 million for a sealed copy of what?
A sealed, okay.
$1.5 million.
Give me a like is it this like a super early generation like Super Nintendo or give me a generation.
Mid-generation.
Okay, so somewhere more recent, you're saying?
No, not quite. So like probably right around when you started playing video games.
Oh, okay. Well, my first system was the 64.
Okay.
Super Mario 64. I'm going to go Super Mario 64.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
That was the first game I ever played.
An unopened version of Super Mario 64 just sold for $1.5 million.
Dear Lord, that was a pack-in game. I got that one just for buying the console.
So this got me like really thinking. This is supposed to be a short thing, but it got long. It's fine.
Sure.
That just got me thinking. I have like new mint condition. First printing, like when they released Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 for the PlayStation 1.
You could sell them for a good chunk of change.
I Googled them, opened, like $500 a pop. If I could factory seal them somehow,
sure,
thousands of dollars each.
Yeah. You could get some money out of that.
I was like, what?
I recently sold a PS2 and stuff just to get rid of and they wouldn't have been worth anything. They were not nice new copies. But
yeah.
I sold them just to get some space in my house.
Man. All right, so that's my first. Okay, you go ahead.
It's crazy. Well, okay. A new or a debate has been renewed based on the announcement that Psychonauts 2 coming out soon. It will have an invincibility toggle. Essentially, God mode will just be an option at all times, so that you can just play the game without having to worry about
right.
Like at all times, there's always a whatever. And that's okay, cool. It has reignited the debate about, people call it accessibility. That's not really the right term. Accessibility in video games is used more for like people who are differently abled, being able
you're missing
to
a
play
hand
a game.
or a couple of fingers or something like that.
Whatever. And difficulty is going to factor into that for sure. Somebody with slowed reflexes, even, or something, whatever. It doesn't matter. But the debate over whether or not there should be essentially an easy mode or different difficulties, or even the specific thing of always available invincibility mode has been reignited, and it has got me thinking. We've talked about this before
a little bit,
in a different way, but so we're not going to spend a lot of time here. But I've been thinking, and we talked about it between us a little bit yesterday.
We had a podcast.
We had a podcast about kind of accessibility and difficulty and stuff
with Sekiro.
I am on board for just any game having a thing like. Why not? It really, to me, aside from like artistic vision, which can still exist, but having an optional God mode just seems like, why not? Why? There is not really any downside as long as it's just an option that you can put in to the game. It just seems weird to me because it feels like they would just make more money, like at the very least.
Maybe, yeah. I wonder at the same time though if there would be the super hardcore guys like, whatever game has God mode now, I'm not going to buy it.
No, I doubt that.
I wonder.
I mean, maybe, but the super hardcore crowd already exists, and they're already mocking people for this, hypothetical situation.
For me, it's all about the artistic vision.
Sure.
I'm games as art 100%, and a game should be made exactly how the artist wants to make it. And if the artists want people, like Celeste is the perfect example to me, that game should have that, invincibility, as many dashes as you want mode, because that's what the game is about. Like, it lends to its artistic vision, and that's what the artists want to, the story they wanted to tell.
Sure, that's what they wanted to do. But I'm thinking of like Battletoads, or originally Super Ghosts and Goblins, or whatever it was called, like super difficult early platformers that were very difficult and had cheat codes for infinite lives.
You know what those cheat codes were? They were dev hacks that never got patched out of the game. So if you're
They
playing,
were still accessible.
no, I know.
though.
Sorry, that was my little side note. I learned that the other day that this was for QA. If you had to play Contra or whatever,
Sure, if you had to test it a billion times
yeah,
and just needed to
so
get past.
I need infinite
sure,
lives or
that's
whatever.
cool.
So, anyway,
But like, people don't look back on Battletoads and say, "Oh, that's a game for babies" because there's a cheat code. They still say, "Yeah, that's a super difficult game, and I love it." I think it'd be the exact same thing. People always just bring up FromSoft games,
right?
The Dark Souls Dark Souls. Like, there's 5 games that people always say these are the reasons. These are the games that say this shouldn't happen. Like, for every game, it's weird. But nobody's gonna say, like, Dark Souls 4 comes out and it has easy mode at the very least. Maybe not super invincibility or whatever, but easy mode. Nobody's gonna look back and say, "Oh, that game sucked because I had the option for it to be easier."
I don't think they should. I think they will. And I think it's dumb and ridiculous, but I think they will.
Okay, sure. 'Cause there are dumb people on the internet that say everything.
Yes.
But I'm even like, I love achievements and trophies and stuff. Turn them off.
Right.
If you've got this to me, there's the artistic achievement. Like, oh yeah, if somebody can say I beat it, let me look at your trophy thing. You don't have that. Oh, okay. You still got to learn this. You get to play through the story. There's a lot of reasons to play Bloodborne without the difficulty, like the story depth and all that.
This would be an equivalent of, let's say it's like a Silent Hill game,
Sure.
and somebody's like, I just get real scared.
Yeah.
Like and can I turn not scary mode
Yeah.
on? And
I love that.
And so, right. But then the developers say, no, we wanted to make a scary game. Like, if you don't want to play a scary game, there's millions of other games out there for you to play. You're welcome to go play any other game, but this is our artistic vision, and our artistic vision was for the player to be scared while playing this game. You don't have to play this game. I almost think there's an amount of, and I know this is a tossed around word, but privilege in there of saying, I deserve to be able to play your game.
Yeah, but you're still welcome to play it that way. The artistic vision isn't gone because of an optional mode.
Well, they still have to like put the dev work into it. They still have like, they would be going into that, working on this separate mode, putting their hours into it, not wanting to do that.
Sure. Obviously, if they don't want to, they don't have to. To me,
nobody's saying they have to.
The question is more about like, why, like, is like people shouldn't, this to me is close to like a exclusivity kind of thing. Why would the audience want exclusive games? Why would you not want as many people to be able to play it as possible? It's art. You want that to be shared. Things like this, to me, are more like we as an audience should be rooting for as much accessibility as possible to everybody.
I just think that should not be left up to the audience. That should be left up to the artist.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think that's great. And if an artist chooses not to do that, cool, man.
Sure.
Hey, man, that was your choice. Yeah, good for you.
Let's talk about other more pleasant things, like the movies we've watched and such.
Well, let's talk about Black Widow then.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we both watched Black Widow.
And this is what I mean about after winning the World Series, the second season, that is fine. Because it was
fine.
Yeah.
I've been having this conversation, like we've talked about this a little bit. I texted you after I watched it, and you basically, like, we kind of had the same exact reaction of the action was kind of lame. Like, there was some really good stuff. Obviously, Florence Pugh was wonderful in the movie in every way. She kind of was too good for it, in my opinion. Yes,
stole the show,
man. You should watch Midsummer. But a lot of it, like the action scenes, especially the ending, was just like, let's get this over with. Like, the ending was
it was
so dumb.
Here's what I will say about the movie. There are times when I feel that, like, it's fine about a movie, and then I dwell on it and I sit on it, and all my memories on it are how dumb that thing was.
Right.
This one's not. The more I think about it, the more I think back on it, the more I love the comedy that was in this and the family interactions. Like, all of Act 2 was like a family road trip, but also they're all superheroes.
Yeah,
and it was hilarious.
The
and
comedy,
delightful.
the fun, like, superhero family reunion is a funny concept.
Yeah,
as well as it approached some hard topics like forced sterilization and just like loyalty to like an ideology or like or nationalism without actual like criticism
or accountability,
critical thinking toward it. Yeah, like those are some big topics that were addressed and had to be like there had to be reconciliation.
Yeah,
great, wonderful, dramatic scenes, and then a giant fortress explodes and falls out of the sky, and it just like.
And then let's be clear, Black Widow fights a bad guy like on a piece of debris falling out of the sky.
Yeah, it was so lame and it was completely unnecessary. What was weird was that this movie was not a spy movie.
Right.
Okay, but let's move on though. Yeah. I watched Dream Horse yesterday.
So I watched
Okay, you know how last week I asked you, "Hey, what's a sports movie?"
Yeah.
And then you just gave the generic plot, and that was 12 Angry Orphans.
I did it, yep.
Think of like a horse girl movie, except for the horse girl is in her 50s or 60s and just like has a humdrum life and wants to do something interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so she and a bunch of other like townspeople in her small Welsh village buy a horse. And like the movie is a horse movie about like we're going to win the race, but It's not about like let's create a magical bond between the person and the horse. Like they have a relationship, of course. It was really interesting because it felt like let's take horse race movie where you triumph whatever, you know, over adversity or whatever, but make it about adults who are like the movie is not about like the lady racing, like riding the horse. They buy the horse, they raise it a little bit, and then they ship it off to the trainer, and they don't see it until they get to the race. Like it's really about the people more so than just like this magical horse.
The horse is just kind of the crux.
Yes,
yeah.
And so it was a little more interesting because of that, but it was still a very predictable plot and pretty simple characters and like they weren't bad. It just didn't have anything super interesting to it.
I watched The Tomorrow War, the new Chris Pratt science fiction movie on Amazon
Prime.
Here's honestly what I think is happening these days.
Okay.
I think that streaming services are finding the cheapest, simplest plot that they can get.
Yeah, buy a script for nothing.
And then casting a big name in the role, hoping that will elevate it. The plot was dumb. It really tried to take itself seriously, but it was also a time plot, and time plots are always tough.
Oh, is it? Yeah, we can talk about it on Loki.
Like, I mean, just the very, very crux of, like, the very base of this is people from the future have come back to the past saying, we are in a war for the Earth. There are aliens who've come. We're in a war for the Earth.
Okay.
And we need your help. We're down to like 500,000 surviving people. We need your help to come to the future and fight this war for us. And then there's the question of, why don't you just tell them how to win?
Unless there's some big twist where it's like, oh, there's not actually aliens or something, which I don't need.
I waited the entire film for a big twist, and there was not one.
Okay, so then it makes no sense because immediately I was thinking, no, just go back in time to the point where they invaded, but you're ready, and now you just destroy them all immediately.
So the way that they explain that, but what they say is, well, the way our time machine works is it creates 2 points in time, but time continues to flow. So, let's say it's point A and point R. A will still move to B, and R will still move to S. B will move to C, S will move to T, and they'll move at that exact same rate. They put the example they use is rafts on a river. They put two rafts on the river, but they still flow. And so somebody asks that question, they give that raft, then the person says, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "Wait, that doesn't explain anything. That doesn't say why you don't just stop this from happening at all."
Right. Well, so did they just randomly go to some point in time and hope those people could help?
Yep.
Oh.
All right, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Let's get down to the nerdy gritty.
Sure.
Hey, y'all, before we get there, just wanted to say that you are currently listening to an edited version of the Nerdy Gritty where this first 44 minutes of what we talked about before this is edited down to make it a little bit, more palatable, a little bit easier to listen to for a casual listener. But if you're not to casual, if you're to hardcore,
you want to hear Steve, or Dez as you might know him, complain about Rain of Fire for too long.
No, complain about people who don't like Rain of Fire. Let me be clear.
Sorry, you're right.
But if you want to get that unedited version, that pure uncut
That
nitty-gritty,
uncut Colombian nerdy gritty.
head over to patreon.com/Dez and Fox, and you can become a tier 2 or higher patron of ours and
called.
get access to the director's cut of the nerdy gritty, which is unedited. 10, 15, sometimes like 40
Too
minutes
hot for TV.
of cut content, and you can go listen to that over there. We always appreciate your support in those ways. Of course, you get access to our Patreon exclusive content and all kinds of other things that we have over there. So you can go check that out. We'd appreciate it. If that's not something you can do, though, then just word of mouth is huge. Please tell people that our podcast exists. Hey, like all 20 of you or whatever listening right now,
That'd be great.
tell somebody. So thank you guys for listening, and let's really truly get down to the nerdy gritty.
So this week, the finale of season 1, because we did learn there will be a season 2.
Yeah.
Season
Oh,
1.
by the way, those are going to be spoilers for Loki here.
That's not a spoiler. That has nothing to do with the story.
Right.
I mean, it could
It's
potentially.
a minor spoiler,
Whatever.
but
There will be spoilers abound in the next
there will be
half
spoilers
an hour,
for Loki.
in the second half of the show for the show Loki. But anyway, the finale aired this week, 2 days ago as of recording this, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna review it a little bit, but also, to me, there's a little bit more that this show represents about the Marvel kind of way of doing things that I want to talk about and complain about.
yeah,
And that's
some
what you're
concerns
here
that it
for,
leaves
so.
us for.
There's some,
for
yes,
the
100%.
future of Marvel.
But so this was a 6-episode TV show about Loki, Laufey's son, or Odin's son, however you want to call him, starting technically during Endgame, but also kind of during the first Avengers movie because time travel.
We should, and this is part of my complaint, we
Sure.
should think of this as the Loki just after the first Avengers movie.
Immediately, yes,
Yeah.
that is where his character arc begins.
Which I didn't talk about it before because I'm talking about it now. After we finished Loki, the next night, my wife and I watched Avengers.
Sure.
Because I was like, that didn't feel like Avengers Loki, but
Right.
we'll get into that more.
We're going to talk about that for sure. But this is a 6-episode show about Loki in which he encounters the TVA, the Time Variance Authority. And after he did a thing that he, quote unquote, wasn't supposed to, he was arrested and charged with time crime. And so there's
you
a
do the
whole
time crime, you do the
you do the time.
time. Dang it.
That's what it is. So there's obviously a whole lot more to it than that, but that's the basic premise.
Right.
It gets much more epic and big as Marvel things do. But let's talk just what'd you think of the show overall?
I had to take it in two different parts in my brain.
Okay.
Because there's the actual character building and the relationships and the hero's path, I guess you could call it, that they were going on, and I loved that.
Sure.
Owen Wilson,
He
just
was
a
wonderful.
gem. Yeah, just wonderful in this whole thing. All the side characters crushed it, like the gal who played the guard.
Oh, sure.
constant
Yeah, I
guard.
forget
Like,
her name, but
she was like cool, tough chick, you know, and
yeah, B-15,
yeah,
I think was her
whatever
her,
it was,
her guard
B-20,
name,
I think,
something
yeah,
like that, B-20.
So, but
Battleship.
whatever it is, there are so many different characters, and of course, Loki and Sylvie, great. Like Tom Hiddleston is fantastic.
Lots of really
course.
good interactions, sure.
But all of this was laid on a foundation that just didn't make sense to me, and I struggled with it through the whole movie. I really did. The whole show, yeah.
Yes.
And you and I have talked about this, where the premise that is set is that the Time Variance Authority is 3 people who can see all of time and all possibilities. It's called Molinism in theology,
Sure.
in Christian theology.
Yeah.
Who can see all possibilities and whatever else, and there's one perfect timeline that they want. And so they're watching that perfect timeline, and if that perfect timeline ever branches, anything that's not supposed to happen ever happens, the Time Variance Authority goes in and stops it from happening to maintain the perfect timeline.
To use their lingo, they prune that branch from
Right.
the timeline, effectively erasing it from existence.
But then they also establish that there are different Lokis. There are different versions
What
of
they
people.
call variants of
right.
people.
How is that possible if they prune all these different things? Like, for example, the whole premise of Sylvie herself. She is female Loki.
She is apparently a variant of Loki.
If Loki is meant to be a male, why did they wait to prune her until she was like 8 years old?
That's the question. We'll get into the weeds of some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are a lot of like I understand though in your review of the show, it's hard to get past some of these like foundational philosophical physics defying questions.
If it was a side thing, if it was like we did this because magic, cool, whatever, blah blah blah, but this is the foundation of the show.
This is what the premise of the show is,
yeah.
And this organization that it revolves around is supposed to do. And yes, I agree. The whole time I was just like, wait, okay, they're going to have to explain why this is either not what they've said it already is and it was a lie, or something's gonna have to happen here because the entire show it's in the back of my mind, just why
I kid you not,
what
every episode either my wife or myself said, wait, that shouldn't work.
Yeah,
like at least once per episode.
Yes,
every episode.
And it's a real issue. Overall, I would say I enjoyed the show.
Yeah,
agreed. I'm not the first person to say this, but it essentially felt like Doctor Who with a budget. Where you have goofy spaceman going around the universe and going to crazy sci-fi things, and it was goofy but also serious at times. It's a very Doctor Who type thing, and I enjoyed it more than any Doctor Who I've ever watched, except for like 2 episodes. But so yeah, overall it's fun. I liked the side characters. I really love how comic booky Marvel has been able to get. I think that's running into some problems. But I love that there's alligator Loki, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. When in like you're just like, what? Like they're able to do that, and it makes perfect sense as to what they've presented. Anyway, so overall, yeah, and I loved like the real core of the show to me was Loki and his relationship with
Sylvie. At
the same time, Sylvie and himself. Which are both kind of the same thing. It was wonderful.
Like, yeah, because he is from the very beginning an extreme narcissist. So who's he gonna fall in love with?
Who's he gonna fall in love with?
Himself. Like, and it's
it's hilarious, and also there's a lot of depth to that.
Yeah, they're making a lot of
story.
statements that make sense there, and I really liked that about it.
And the hard part is though, like you said, the whole time you're like, okay, that doesn't make sense. And so do we want to go through a few, like, I have a few questions that I don't think were answered.
Yeah.
And maybe you can give me some answers here, like that you caught that I didn't, or that you can explain. Why were all the Lokis pruned? Like, why was that so important?
So it's not that only Lokis are pruned. Everything gets pruned. Kind of the going thing was Lokis survive.
I guess. So, yeah.
At the end, it was a bunch of Lokis there because everybody else was Alioth, the big gas dog,
gas monster,
had killed everybody else, but Lokis survived, and that's
so they're the only ones who are able to find them.
Pretty much.
All they had to do was go underground.
Yeah,
I feel like anybody should be able to do that. Okay, yeah. It felt weird though that, like, anyway, I guess the foundational question is how does big spoilers now.
Yeah.
Very end, last episode, we find out that we find out earlier on, but in the last episode, it's not these 3 timekeepers that have been presented as the overlords. It's one guy. He doesn't have a name in this episode, but he is known to be Kang the Conqueror or whatever. And it's explained that this guy, in the 31st century of apparently the main timeline, was able to travel universes, was able to open doors. They explain that he says specifically other universes.
Right.
He goes to them and for a while is able to, like, it's a peaceful, fun.
The way that he says it is, as soon as I discovered other universes, the me of other universes
people did
discovered
the same
it too.
Yeah.
And so we found each other.
They contact each other, and then eventually there are other hymns that are not peaceful.
They're mustache twirling hymns.
Start to yes, the villainous Kangs, the villainous He Who Remains. They start a multiversal war, and basically to stop that from happening, he invents this whole time variance authority to prune events that aren't supposed to happen and stop the multiverse from ever existing.
Right.
How does he know what is supposed to happen and what isn't?
No idea. Maybe I missed this. How does he learn time? He talked about multiple universes.
Sure. I mean, all he says is technology of my day allowed me to travel universes.
Right. The universes. But that's that's dimensional travel, not time travel.
Well, okay, so my interpretation was that when there's a branch, it essentially creates a new universe.
Okay. So
yeah, no, they interchange the idea of time travel and dimensional travel, which is a problem,
right?
Because you're not traveling through time if you're going to another universe.
Yeah, if it's
you're
12/15, July 18th or whatever today is, and then I travel to another dimension, it's still 12/15, July 18th. I mean,
you could time travel in that other dimension, but
right.
whatever. Like this, it all sounds so like. It sounds like we're nitpicking. But we're nitpicking because this is the core of the show.
If this were Back to the Future, when the purpose of the show was, is he going to make sure his parents get back together?
Yeah.
Then that's not important.
Yes.
But when this is literally the purpose of the show is let's find out who's behind the Time Variance Authority.
Right.
And why they've been running time this way. Like, this is core to the show here.
And so a really good example of that is what you brought up before. If Sylvie is a variant, why was she taken when she's 8 or 9 or 10 years old, rather than immediately when she's born, or immediately whatever when she's conceived even or whatever? That's not supposed to happen. Let's get her out of there.
My thought for that was, because it doesn't make sense, but one thing I tossed around a little bit was maybe there's an end point and multiple paths can lead to that end point. Loki could have been a girl and gone through everything and could have still gotten to that end point. Or he could have been a boy and gotten to that endpoint as well. But it was something that happened. Because our question also was, how is there a black Loki? A bald black Loki.
Right.
And so maybe Loki could have been black and gone through all of the same paths and ended up at... I think the end goal was the purpose. And therefore, there are multiple paths that could lead to that same end goal. I think they started pruning when they got off of that path toward the end goal. When they hit that's headcanon.
This is all like, this was never explained.
That's headcanon.
So this is the problem. Like my explanation was, well, I guess from the beginning of time, like the butterfly effect style thing.
Yeah.
Oh, something just happened so that this Loki will not be the correct Loki. We have to get rid of it. Something just happened. But to me, again, why is classic Loki, so-called classic Loki, look like he's in his 60s?
Yeah.
Why, was at some point when he's in his 60s it went wrong? Well, that means it was wrong from the start, wasn't it? And it just this is the problem with the show.
Yeah.
Is that it philosophically contradicts itself. And like power creep is a thing, but so is like conceptual creep, I guess. It's really interesting. They went from Thanos, where the threat was, I'm going to murder, in Endgame, I'm going to kill everything in the universe.
Yeah.
Wasn't even just half at that point. He decided everything needs to die. And you're like, that's huge. And then in like a show, a year or two later, now there's a guy who's controlling all of time and history and all universes everywhere. And that's fine, I guess, but they are introducing more and more concepts that are going to muddle the content of your movies, where it's just like, well, that didn't have to happen. Why didn't they just prune that universe? Like what is going on here?
I saw a meme that was Infinity War and the Ebony Maw handing the second Infinity Stone to Thanos.
Sure.
And him saying, you are now doing what no person in history has ever done. You're wielding 2 Infinity Stones. And then it's that scene in Loki when Miss Minutes is like, you want an Infinity Gauntlet? We can do that for you. And then it just says at the bottom, well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, right.
And that's that power creep where like the Infinity Stones, it's called the Infinity Saga. Yes. And now we've taken this step where in this show, they're talking about Infinity Stones as paperweights. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Which is fine in a self-contained thing.
Right.
What I was honestly expecting was for all of this to be a lie and to be nothing. At the end of the day, it's like an Endgame. I was really hoping that after all this time travel, they would then say, this is too powerful. Let's destroy our ability to time travel.
Right.
So that in any movie after that, you can't just say, we'll just go back in time and fix it.
Right.
Because then it just kind of takes away the emotional oomph from a lot of stuff. And this does the same thing. And it felt very frustrating. I will say that a lot of that was not my main frustration, though, with the ending of this show. The ending of this show is more frustrating to me because it felt like the worst example of Marvel prioritizing setting up future stuff over a satisfying conclusion to an arc that they've started. And that to me was the biggest sin.
And it's not the fact that it's a cliffhanger, because Infinity War had the mother of all cliffhangers.
Are fine,
but it made sense, and it was still a satisfying ending. Like,
sure, yeah.
it was like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? But
I want to know what happens
satisfying.
next.
Yes, I agree that the ending of Loki was unsatisfying.
Yes, because, and I think the problem was, instead of this arc of Loki that they set up, he started off as Avengers Loki, somebody who's being arrested for literally trying to subjugate the Earth to his own will. And over this show, they did a admirable job of showing him change.
Yeah.
And make friends. And genuinely care about... There's a great line in the last episode where he's talking to Sylvie and he's just like, I just want to see you. I just want you to be okay.
Yes, I want
and it's
you
just
to
like
be
this
okay.
wonderful little human moment of this. Who 6 episodes was this immortal space god who wants to control everything, and you're like, there's obvious change here. The problem with episode 6 though is that half of it or more is dedicated to this guy we've never met, this He Who Remains, and they have to spend so much time. An info dump and backstory for this guy, and it really just kind of takes away from what the show has been about.
Yeah.
And that was a huge problem, because he's going to be a big deal in upcoming shows and movies, but that's not what I'm watching Loki for right now. I'm watching Loki to see Loki change and grow as a person like I've seen him do before. And anyway, that was the most frustrating part.
That was a little bit tough for me too, especially after watching Avengers. If you guys go back and you watch Thor, Dark World, and then Avengers in that order, and just Thor and then
Avengers, then Dark World.
Yeah, if you just watch Thor then Avengers, Loki is this vindictive, murderous, cruel
You understand
person.
why?
Yeah.
He's an ice giant who has lied to his whole life.
Yeah. And there are scenes, and they talk about one of them in the show where he takes the dude's eye out.
Yeah.
And he gets kind of like this half grin on his face.
It is violent.
They talk about that in the show, but then there's the scene in Avengers when he stabs Phil Coulson.
Yeah.
And again, he's just got this glee on his face.
Yeah, and he kills 80 people at one point.
Right. He is adopted. Yeah. And then they put that person into this show, and I think the problem that I had was I think they put him into that show and then turned him into the Loki of Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War in the matter of 2 or 3 days. Instead of years
of progress,
growth, isolation at one point,
events happening to him, and a brother who genuinely cares for him,
right? Who keeps seeking after him,
right?
Yeah.
The way they definitely could have portrayed him more as this vindictive, bloodthirsty person. I mean, they did take away his powers,
right? Literally,
which I think is going to contribute to that. If you have no magic, if you have no, you can still be crafty and mischievous. But but I agree. It would have been weird to see original Avengers, Loki. And so I think they genuinely were like, okay, people like him. He had a bit of popularity armor,
Yeah.
And so, I agree that was the thing. But even within the context of the show itself, he had a genuine arc.
He did.
And you got to see him as a person in lots of ways. He's getting drunk and dancing. And
let's go at this because we dunked on that a lot here.
We did, yes.
But I enjoyed it, and you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed watching it, yes.
So let's talk about what we really enjoyed about it before we get into our concerns for the future of Marvel because of the show. But what did you like about it then?
Well, I liked again, it did live up, or it did kind of do the thing that I'm hoping Marvel does. It did something Black Widow didn't do. Black Widow didn't do, let's make a spy movie. It didn't do the thing that it should have done where it's okay, let's keep it fresh and kind of play around with different genres because it's appropriate for the character. Loki did.
Yep.
Loki created a fun time traveling, space traveling, there was a lot of manipulation, a lot of goofiness going on, and I think that's what Loki needs.
There was a bit of an Ocean's 11 element to it,
little
of
bit.
like who's getting played.
Sure,
at what point here.
alliances changing over and over again, and you don't know who to trust.
Good reveals. Yeah, it was good.
And I think I think there was a lot of good fun. Like it was episode 5 was very fun with all the different Lokis. I don't understand it particularly as a concept, but the actual content was fun, seeing all these goofy Lokis and, President Loki and Kid Loki and all these people. And just like, there was a really great line in that one too, where Mobius is just like, it's never too late to change. You're like, that's a wonderful line for this show. Like,
absolutely.
Loki clearly has a moment of, that kind of thing.
I could, yeah.
I could still. And it's wonderful. And it treated the character well up until that last episode where it kind of shoved him out of the way for future stuff.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think it did well. It felt like a Loki appropriate show.
I really think that there was what Marvel overall came to writers and said, we want it to end this way. We need you to set up this sort of story. And they're like, okay, man, that's a big ask for 6 episodes, but we can do that. And then they did the best they could and did a spectacular job with it. I think, again, I don't think it's the individual writer's choice or I guess the handful of writers' choice to do this crazy TVA thing, whatever else. That's obviously from higher up to help establish the full arc of Phase 4 and whatnot.
Yeah.
But what they had, I think the writing was brilliant. I think the character development was so much fun to watch. There was good comedy.
Yeah.
There was good romance, like really, really like subtle. I think this show lived in subtlety and sometimes.
Yeah.
Other times it was bombastic, but
huge.
Yeah.
Planets ending.
But the subtlety of it sometimes was so good.
Right.
Just like little facial looks in between characters and whatnot, and acted wonderfully, written really, really well. Overall, it is a good show.
Owen Wilson was a perfect choice.
Man, he did great.
I love the 70s business aesthetic of the TVA.
Yeah.
It just didn't have to be that. Could have been just like boring sci-fi future or whatever. But no, it was like a fun aesthetic that they haven't done before, and it felt like it worked really well.
I agree.
Just lots of little choices like that. Yeah, our problems are more foundational than what was actually presented. And so, yeah, it was a weird mishmash of that kind of thing.
So, our problems foundationally, they're setting a foundation that Marvel's going to continue to build on. What's your fear here, Fox?
Well, the fear is that nothing's going to feel as emotionally important as it could. It's my problem with the real life multiverse theory. That if the multiverse exists, then nothing in each multiverse really matters as much as or at the very least that it's probably just different somewhere else, or which one makes sense, which one matters. My problem here is that the emotional weight of somebody losing a battle or winning a battle or dying or something is going to be lessened when you realize, there's probably just a universe where they didn't. Why don't we just go there? Like what that's also happening. Isn't that the same exact thing? We're just happening to see this one. It's just, that's always going to be in the back of our minds, I think, if you're creating a actual multiverse.
Yeah, for me, it's I've always said that the movies represent the comics really well, but they don't get too comic-y.
Yes.
This is getting too comic-y.
It's getting a little too much into
whenever
the weeds.
Anybody dies in a comic, the first thought is they'll be back.
Yeah.
And now there's this thought process of there is this mindset of they could bring anybody back now.
Yeah. Oh no, we just got a different Loki from different universe.
Right.
He's back. He's a little different, but we caught him up to speed.
They've made it possible to make death meaningless, and that removes so much of the value of Black Widow's death and of Tony Stark's death and of Steve Rogers getting old.
Sure.
You can always pull those people back from another universe. that'll work, right? And I don't want that. I hope that they really, really commit to letting these characters stay dead, because that's something that comics don't do. And I really want them to commit to that. I think that'd be really, really easy for them to bring people back, though.
Yeah, it's
even just a cameo.
It's going to be strange, literally Doctor Strange. This felt like it was setting up so many things. Doctor Strange, the What If show.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about it, if the
It's
multiverse
canonical?
if the multiverse theory is true, then there's no such thing as a fictional story.
Right.
If the multiverse in the MCU is true, then the what if episodes are not what ifs. We're just seeing stories from other universes, other timelines, other branches, variants.
A tough part for me with multiversal theory altogether, and we're getting into more science and philosophical stuff,
Which is where they've gone.
Right. Is in the same way if somebody says there are no absolute truths, that's a statement of
except for the
absolute
one I
truth.
just made.
Yeah.
And that one. And that one.
Right.
And that one.
In the same way, if there are infinite multiverses and infinite possibilities, then there's a multiverse where there isn't infinite multiverses.
And it immediately collapses on itself
Right.
as a potential concept.
And so it has to be infinite except for that one.
Except for
Right.
that one.
So it's tough to buy into that wholeheartedly. I really, really wanted this, like you were saying, to be them kind of messing with time, and then at the end saying, we have destroyed the possibility of time travel.
Yes.
And they look directly into the camera and they say, so now you can't travel through time anymore.
Now I'm hoping that happens at whatever, I guess Multiverse of Madness would be the last one where they've potentially, because even in the next Spider-Man, there's potential for that to happen with different Spider-Men showing up.
Saw a meme that was Ralph Wiggum in the back of the bus dressed as Doctor Strange, and it said, after Loki, and it's him saying, I'm in danger.
No, I've seen like sad Ben Affleck smoking a cigarette dressed up like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
When Wanda's messing with reality and Loki's messing with time. He's can I give you my fan theory of what would have made this at the ending of this show much better?
In a second, because let me talk about one more genuine fear that I have for the Marvel Universe.
I want to talk about
right
how I'm better than all the writers.
Absolutely, yes. Every comic book nerd is the best writer in their own mind.
Except me, I'm truly the best.
Okay, genuine concern. And when at the very beginning, when they talked about this being the TVA and the Time Lords or whatever they're called, I told my wife this. There is an amount of power creep that I don't know how they're going to recover from here. They are overcoming a actual literal god, essentially, not Asgardians. They're super powered people.
Sure, they have powers.
Thought were gods or whatever. This guy controlled space and time. He controlled all things.
As far as little g gods go, yes, that is much more godly.
Yeah, that's much closer to capital G God.
Yes,
and he could see all things and know all things up until a certain point, at least. That was, for whatever reason.
We didn't even mention
for some reason.
The dumb threshold that was not explained except for plot convenience.
Yeah,
it made no sense.
We did it. Now
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
And where do you go from there? Like, what is the next threat that's going to feel threatening? If you can overthrow universe controlling deities, what's the next thing that's going to feel threatening?
That is why it would have made a lot more sense to not have it be real.
Right.
To say this is all a construct. Can I give you my fan theory?
Okay, go ahead.
At the end of episode...
So what I was saying...
At the end of episode 5, when they show you the glimpse of the Citadel at the end of time, which is a cool sci-fi concept, for sure.
Yeah,
it's like the restaurant
the
at the end.
The Citadel at the end of time is super cool.
It's like the restaurant at the end of the universe in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. My wife, our theory was that either Loki, some other version of Loki, or Doctor Strange will be there. Doctor Strange will be there, controlling all of time, because that's basically what he did in Endgame and Infinity War, so that the best result came, is the best outcome. And he said, if I have this power, then I am responsible for it. Yeah. The Spider-Man with great power comes, and his great power is he can see all timelines. Right. And so he's there saying, I have to do this. And Loki, whatever. Loki, there's whatever. There lots goes on. The better thing I think would have made much more sense thematically and plot-wise. This is ultimately the most successful version of Avengers Loki ever. In that movie, his theory was people want to be ruled because it makes life easier. And he's the one whose glorious purpose is to rule over them.
I want the glorious porpoise t-shirt.
The glorious porpoise.
It's a dolphin with Loki horns and it's glorious porpoise.
And now he is Glorious Purpose Loki, who now subjugates all of time and space to what he thinks should be happening. And Loki of this show, Variant Loki, comes in and says, like, Loki said, Glorious Purpose Loki made up the TVA. It's all nonsense. Right. They don't actually do anything, but he's lying and manipulating and being mischievous and using that. People like a reason to control things. Yeah. They're to be controlled. They feel like they have a purpose now. And it's not real, but I'm giving it to them because it's what they want. And Loki comes in and says, no, this isn't right. Free will is more important. And then has to kill himself, kind of like Gamora did.
I think it would have been a great, like, Dark Link type thing, like where you have to fight the dark side of yourself.
Basically, yeah. And it's like, and it's him saying, control isn't what's important. Like, love is. They already had a conversation about what love was in like 3 or 4. This is the ultimate expression of that. Like, true love is free will. It is giving people the option, the ability to, like, what you are doing here is the opposite. It is not people, and so I think that would have been, and then of course, then the multiversal war happens and whatever. It basically could have been the same exact outcome with a much more satisfying thematic conclusion. And so obviously pay me money, Marvel. Yeah. I'll cut that all out. It's just a fan theory, but, so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it seems like our opinion on the show is it was pretty fun and pretty good and well written in a lot of ways, but fundamentally kind of sets the stage for some real problems coming up. Yeah. And they're going to have to overcome them.
I really fear that it's going to get super comic booky. Yes. And we have comic book movies like that. They were made in the 80s and 90s, and they were fine sometimes and not great mostly. But what Marvel did was put it in a more realistic setting and make these like more lovable, careable characters. Don't get crazy, y'all. Don't get crazy, y'all. Yeah. So, yeah, that's our thoughts. Hey, let us know what you thought about Loki. Let us know what you thought about the show, and let us know what you think about the foundational future of Marvel as we know it.
The Future Foundation.
The Future Foundation.
That's a Marvel thing.
Ah, there you go. Want to say, just stop everything you're saying. Oh, hey, can we have John Krasinski and Emily Blunt in Fantastic Four, please?
That'll make up for this.
I will make up for it. Please, please. I want to say a big thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song, All My Friends Have Wi-Fi, and so do some of my neighbors, off the album Dear Sam. We appreciate you guys. Hey, thank you.
Also, check out our YouTube channel. We've got lots going on there. Recently, episodes of our playthroughs of Pikuniku, a fun little platformer puzzle game, which is so much fun, goofy. And then as well as a game called Minute, which is a little fun, gimmicky kind of Zelda take. Next, we are playing A Plague Tale: Innocence, which is a very different game, but a very beautiful story and sad story so far.
To me, it's a lot like Black Widow, where it's a cool story with really good characters. Yeah, it's interesting. The necessary part of it is the worst part of it.
Anyway, you can hear we talk a lot about that during our playthrough. Yeah. So go check out our YouTube channel for that. I just finally started posting my videos. My playthrough of Bloodborne: The Old Hunters is starting up the day you're listening to this. It just came out this morning at 9 a.m. I don't finish it. I get all the way to the final boss and rage quit. And then... just like my playthrough of Sekiro.
Right. And then right after that, once that's all done, I started my playthrough of, not the Da Vinci Code, the House of Da Vinci.
My playthrough of the Da Vinci Code is just a video of you reading the book silently.
Going, oh,
Huh. Wait, he was that guy?
Oh, man.
What a twist.
My wife will laugh at me because when I'm reading, I will, like, laugh out loud and gasp sometimes or whatever. Like, I will, like, actively react to things in books.
That's great.
But anyway, thanks again for listening, guys. And always remember that saved games save lives.
Bye.